What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to Ernesto Zarate, who is a fighter out of Alaska. And he's going to tell us about his journey in mixed martial arts and the Alaskan fight scene. Ernesto, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing very good. How are you today?
Good, good. Thanks for asking. A pleasure to have you here, and a big shout out to Alaskan Fighting Championships 145-pound champion, your teammate, the one and only Tyson Duckworth, for setting this all up. Shout out to that guy. But dude, right now in California where I'm at, it's kind of weird. Everything's kind of shut down. What's the
Yeah.
scene like in Alaska right now?
So yeah, like as far as shows go, everything's kind of shut down. Like there's no real competitions happening. Um, as far as like high level fighters go. But where I'm from, Ketchikan, Alaska, of course, uh, all the gyms are pretty much open. I'm training jujitsu 5 days a week, and I'm there at the Fight Club with Tyson 3 days a week. Um, as far as training goes, everything is going the way it's supposed to be. Um, that's basically what I'm happy about at this point.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. But it's a bittersweet symphony, so to speak, because obviously, you can train theoretically speaking, but there's nothing to kind of, train for. So, how have you handled some of that frustration that, like you're training and, building your body to an optimal state, but then there's not knowing what's going to happen in terms of fights or even jiu-jitsu competitions.
Right. As far as that goes, like the competitions, like yes, there is some sort of like you said, frustration or uh, like I think about it a lot, of course, but I'm more happy to just be in the gym more than anything. And at this point, I've been training for about 2 years, in as far as like mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, and like ground game goes. And I think I'm very early in my career, and I have a lot of time to develop, and I'm happy with the time that I have right now, and I feel like I'm getting stronger all the time.
That's tremendous. And that's almost a parable for what everybody kind of needs to go through right now. There's a litany of whether it be health, financial, a lot of kind of weird things going on, a lot of
Mhm.
negative things. But again, to continually get stronger, to find, kind of the resolve within to kind of get stronger in whatever you're doing and being
Yeah.
the champion of your life, so to speak.
Yeah. And like with all that like quarantine things, like being alone and being training and like staying that dedicated, even when there's the people around you may have like um there's not that many more people around you because basically like the gyms are closed. So like everybody that you were training with, you're not training with anymore. So it just takes like that much more mental strength in order to like push through and break through those kind of barriers or obstacles that life throws at you, you know? And none of us knew that this was going to happen. One day we kind of just woke up and shit started popping off. And here we are.
No, 100%. I think I know exactly where I was when I knew California was kind of shutting down for the
Mhm.
most part. I was actually at the weigh-ins for Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
Yeah.
It's a regional show and owned by, co-owned by Sean Merriman of the NFL, and they were supposed to have fights Friday the 13th, March 13th. So I had got to Commerce Casino here in LA, uh, and got to the ballroom expecting to see lights, cameras, cage setup, weigh-ins,
Yeah.
angry fighters cutting weight and everything like that. And the ballroom is absolutely empty. And literally, I looked on my phone to on their Instagram page, and it said that California State Athletic Commission pretty much banned all combat sports events, for the foreseeable future. And I
Right.
was just like, whoa, and at that point, it was solely supposed to be 3 weeks, right? And who knew what was going to happen? What was on the horizon, so to speak.
Yeah. Kind of like almost like a similar situation on our end. Me and Tyson were actually in Anchorage around the time when everything got quarantined. So when we got there, it was kind of like the same situation. The arena wasn't that full. People were talking about the coronavirus like it was an active thing, and as far as like news goes and social media, but like nothing had taken effect here in the Alaskan state. And coincidentally, as soon as we got back to Ketchikan, that's when the whole quarantine happened, and yeah, everything got locked down.
That's nuts. Yeah, talked to Tyson a few weeks ago, and he kind of said the same. Where and he had just fought in Anchorage, and it was won the title, and
Yeah,
right when he got back, to your hometown, and I mean, where you guys have trained, you fight under the academy that bears the name of your city. You wear it proudly, and that's when you figure out, like, oh no, shit's just like it just got real.
yeah, for sure. And like they told us that we couldn't show up to the gym and work out, and for that to be a thing, um, for the most part, it's just me and him. It's me and him in the gym for the most part. We're the two most consistent people, if anything. I would say, and I'm not trying to like talk down on anybody else, of course, but like I'm just putting it out there. Um, uh, and for that to happen, it was kind of like a shocker to me. Um, but it was understandable, because it's not just about me and him; it's about essentially the whole community.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. But I kind of want to dial it back because I mean, obviously, you're involved in mixed martial arts. What was the moment where you decided, hey, like this is something that I want to do? Was it a particular fight that you saw? I mean, just wanting to get in shape. Like, what was the catalyst for you, kind of engaging in the crazy world of MMA?
So I was probably about 18, 19 at the time. I was working at the mall that the Fight Club is in, and Tyson worked a deal out with my manager, basically saying like, "Yo, if something about the power bill, basically, and the people who work at the mall get to work out for free. Like they get like a deal on the power bill, and the people who work at the mall get to show up and work out for free." And that's how I started working out there. I showed up and started working out in like jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Um, and like it was just like an outlet for me at that time because I didn't know like my like direction or whatever, or like even like have like a foundation, which kind of like martial arts became for me, has become for me. Like created, gave me a good foundation for life.
I
Um,
love it. No, go ahead.
and yeah, I started training there when I was 19, for free, essentially for the first year. And then when I turned 21 or 20, I stopped working there. I got another job somewhere else, and I kept training. I kept training, and a couple years later, um, I think it was I know it was like a year and a half later. Um, Tyson came to me and asked me if I wanted to fight in Juneau, and that was last December, the day before Christmas. And he came to me, asked me if I wanted to fight, and I didn't tell him that I was interested in fighting. I didn't say anything like that. I was just training there, and he thought that I was good enough to go there and fight somebody that I didn't know. And so so I took the opportunity and I went and did it, and I surprised myself. I guess I surprised everybody that I'm actually decent. And
That's I think that's tremendous.
yeah, I thought it was cool. And
Now, I mean, was there a particular aspect of the game that came to you almost naturally? Was it more striking? Was it more grappling? Obviously, you have since in the 2 years that you've been training, you've
yeah,
attained a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So, I mean,
yeah.
what was there any one more thing than the other that you kind of gravitated to, or just the whole kind of experience?
I'd say the whole experience. I'm like kind of like naturally competitive and naturally aggressive. I have a lot of like natural strength, like my build in itself, like my skeletal structure is kind of fucking intense. Like And so like I just kind of like took it upon myself to like build myself and sharpen those edges, and turn myself into an actual fighter, and not just somebody who just is a tough kid who thinks he can fight.
No, 100%. And I mean, you hear it every weekend, right? In terms of, people who swear that they can fight. I mean, famously, in one of the earliest UFCs, there's a guy literally, with paint on his shirt, I mean, chest, his bare chest, and it says, just bleed. Or anytime you see like a grappling exchange and people don't know what's going on, and it's just like, get up, right? But I mean, there's so much into it that, most people don't take into account that are just kind of watching peripherally. But that's something that you definitely learn to kind of draw within
Yeah,
and build yourself both mentally, physically, and spiritually through fight.
absolutely, absolutely. And like I think that through training, you find ways to reach those high points in the fight, whether it be spiritually, mentally, physically. You need to train all those in order to be ready for combat. You know, um, and I think any professional will tell you the same thing. And I've only been training for a couple of years, and I'm not one to say like, oh, I'm this or that, but I've had my first professional fight against somebody who's had tons more experience than me, and I finished him in the second round, and without getting a scratch on my face. So I didn't, I didn't, I didn't really overthink it or overthink any of that stuff. I don't really try to come with that extraness. I just know I train hard. I know I don't have like when that bell rings, like I respect my opponent, yeah, but like when things go down, like that's just goes out the window. There's no time for being weak. There's only time to win, essentially. You know,
No, I know 1,000%. And especially in times like this where people are kind of looking for catalysts to help them get through, something to kind of hang on to weather the storm in terms of peril and uncertainty. But it's one of the things that you've done as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist, that you've been able to kind of see within yourself and what you can contribute. And I mean, literally discover parts of yourself that you wouldn't have even ventured to if you hadn't become involved in mixed martial arts.
sorry, I missed the last part of that.
No. But you're discovering, parts about yourself, at a time where people are looking for reasons to kind of dig deep within themselves and figure out what their true self is beyond a job, beyond their living situation, and they're you know looking at more ways to kind of define and embody their own self. This is something that you've done as a professional mixed martial artist.
Yeah, sort of like evolve in a sense. Just finding different aspects about yourself, I think, as a human being is important for everybody. And not everybody's going to be a good fighter. Not everybody's going to be a good whatever. But like, it's important to find your passion, no matter who you are. Like, everybody has a purpose, big or small. In my opinion, that's my personal belief. Um, there's nothing wrong with having a normal job. What would we do without the mailman?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. But I mean, for those who step into the cage or step on the sacred mats, of any mixed martial arts discipline, it's there's something that happens to you, and you don't even have to fight in particular. You could just do jujitsu. You could just take classes to better your physical health and what have you. But there's something that visceral that happens that changes the entire at times kind of course of your life.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Being able to spend your time in a um, combative state, being like training your mind, and like in that sense, you're forcing yourself to change mentally. You know, somebody who's scared, somebody who's not used to fighting, forces themselves to go into a jiu-jitsu environment or an MMA environment. They stay consistent. They're going to go from being that to somebody who's not afraid. Um, So you're forcing yourself initially to change mentally, and I think that's a very important human characteristic that everybody should carry. Um, the allowing yourself to change when it's necessary and not being so complacent in your mind.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. And again, through that extreme challenge, that is what kind of you never really learn, about yourself when things are up. It's when all the chips are down, and it literally feels like you're kind of holding out the walls and you're standing in quicksand. Do you really figure out what you're made out of? But speaking of what you're made out of, uh, who are I want you to get some shout outs of the way to the people that have helped you along your not just professional journey as a mixed martial artist, but also your journey as in life as a young man. Let's get some shout outs out of the way, my man.
Okay. Well, let's first start with my family, my mom and my dad. They birthed me, they created me who I am, they made me the man I am today. Um, Tyson Duckworth, that's my main training partner. He took me from just being a kid who pushed mops to somebody who can actually fuck some shit up. Jordan Tab, he's my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach. He's a black belt, professor black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He's great. He's a very talented man. Nick Heron Webb, the one who offered me a fight in the first place against my opponent, David Booker. Shout out to David Booker. And gave me that opportunity to essentially go from amateur boxing to straight to professional MMA and like that. So, and there's a lot of people who's helped me along my way, like all my training partners, a lot of people in my jiu-jitsu class, and they all know who they are. If they're watching, I just can't come up with all these names right off the top of my head. But yeah, for sure. And everybody at Ketchikan Fight Club.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you've bled, sweat, kind of Ezekiel choke each other, you know who you are. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now for Ernesto, again, I know you're headed out, and I'm absolutely grateful for the time that you spent with us. But for those who haven't already done so, where can they find you on social media, my man?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Zarnesto, at Zar_Nesto 907. That's my Instagram tag. And Ernesto Zarate on Facebook. Add me as a friend. Follow me on Instagram. Whatever you want to do.
Damn right, dude. Well, what I want to do is in the lead up to the next fight, I want to have you back on here to kind of talk about the journey because I know there's going to be one. So, yeah, we'll do that on the flip side, my man. But again, I know you're headed out. Thank you so much for joining us here. Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. But for Ernesto Zarate, I'm According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods Facebook and YouTube. And